Since it is a coffee event.
That's right. Hopefully everybody has their coffee
Right.
too, whatever.
Yeah, everyone
whatever
bring their
coffee.
own if you drink it. I've got my own, so.
Right. So we have 29 people.
Okay. Well, I guess we can go ahead and start and people can join. I noticed you're recording, so people could check that out if they've missed it. Did you want to introduce things,
Sure.
Tammy, and then we can get started? Okay.
So this is Coffee with the Principal. It's to get to know Mr. Conrad a little bit better and to get to know the school and some of the scheduling and, policies and different things that you'd like to know. And we'd like to keep it relaxed and just, a good morning for everybody and to get your questions answered and anything that you're curious about. And just to, just take the time to get to know and ask some questions if you need to. So without further ado, this is Principal Conrad.
Thank you. And Tammy is our PTA president, and I'm sure if you have not joined PTA, she would love for you to join, right?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Yeah, that's always awesome.
So I'll give a plug. I'll give a plug for
Yeah.
the PTA website. It's mmspta.org. So please join.
Yeah, we love to have as many PTA members as we can, as much involvement as we can. So good morning. I did not expect it to be that raining. I mentioned a minute ago that my socks are in the dryer in the athletic locker room right now. The rain even made it into my rain boots this morning. So it was quite the morning, and we've been accommodating for our students, and we haven't counted anyone tardy unless they've come in after 8:40 this morning, because we know it was quite the morning weather-wise. So I want to just talk just kind of the plan for the morning. We're not going to go more than an hour. We may not go a full hour, but we won't go more than an hour. I want to respect your time. It really depends on the direction of the conversation. I'm going to take just a few minutes to introduce myself. I want to get to know people. I wish we could do it in person, and we had planned on it. And there's been kind of some recent advice from our school district that we really need to keep social events with parents virtual for this first 9 weeks. And so that's why we moved it. However, maybe you're able to join today because of that. And so I'm definitely thankful to have you. I would encourage you to turn on your camera. You don't have to. I don't want you to do anything you're not comfortable doing, but that way I can kind of see who I'm talking to. But you don't have to. You don't have to. And so I'm just going to talk a little bit just so you can kind of get to know me just a little bit, so you know who I am and know a little bit about me. But mainly want to talk about the school. And then I am actually going to give you guys a chance to talk about whatever it is you want to talk about under a couple conditions. If you have a situation that's really only something just for your specific child that really wouldn't affect anyone else, I would ask that you give me a call or someone else. Or if you have a specific concern about a staff member, I would rather take that call privately. But any other thing is on the table, we can talk about. I'm happy to talk about. So, all right. So again, thank you for being here today. I love this school. This is, in my opinion, and I know I have to be biased, but even if I wasn't biased, I tell you, Murphy Middle School is an excellent school. It really is. I am fortunate to get to be the principal here. It's a gift and an honor that I get to hold, and I take it very seriously that I get to work with you guys and with your kids day in and day out. This is my 6th year here as principal at the school. Prior to coming here, I served other time as an administrator. I've been an assistant principal at a 910 high school in the district over at Shepton. And I do think that experience has been good, because I still kind of know where your kids are going after middle school, kind of what they need in order to be prepared for that. But then I've also spent a lot of my career in middle school, 7 years. over at Haggard in the central part of the district. I was a teacher there. Spent 1 year as an administrator there. I've coached, I've taught PACE, I've taught social studies, I taught a year of high school before that. So I've done various things. But what I love the most, what I'm most passionate about really is working with middle school kids. When I worked at the high school, it was a really, really good experience for me. I learned so much about graduation plans and college prep, all of that. But at the end of the day, my heart was I just felt really at home and really trying to help middle school kids have a good middle school experience. That's what's important to me, is I want kids to have a really good experience. And the experience goes beyond just academics. We want that experience to be a good social experience. We want them to be supported emotionally. We know it's not always going to be perfect. I'm always here to help troubleshoot. Some kids are going to breeze right through and have a great experience. Other kids are going to have more hurdles when they come to middle school, and we've got to get a team around them and help them be as successful as possible. I am a Plano grad. I went to Plano Senior High, but I'm a Panther fan now because, we're Plano East Panthers, and I love the Panthers. Those are our kids. But I am a Plano Senior High alum, and so I am all about Plano ISD. I've been an employee here. This is my 16th year. Then I had 13 years as a child. I did defect north to the state of Oklahoma for a few years just to go to college at OU. But I've been in Texas the rest of my life. So just a little bit about me and my family. I'm married. My wife and I just celebrated our 12th anniversary, been married 12 years. Her name's Rebecca. She's going to be teaching a little bit of preschool this year. We live in the Frisco area. I have 3 children. I have a 7-year-old boy named Campbell. He's in 2nd grade. I have a 5-year-old daughter named Kate, and she is in kindergarten. And my son Colin is 3, and he's going to preschool with my wife. So fun times at our house. It's fun times. Like, we had a plumber last night having to replace a toilet because my 3-year-old flushed Elmo down the toilet and it got stuck. And we decided it was best just to get a new toilet that was more powerful and better in case he did it again. So it was like $500, right? But that's just kind of life when you've got kids that age, and some of you still have kids that age, or you recently did because you have a middle schooler now. So I've got a busy life, tending to the needs of the school and leading the school, but also to that of my family. And that's kind of essentially what I'm all about. I love to help other people and love to try to help people through things and help kids, especially. I really enjoy trying to help kids grow and develop into responsible, successful, well-balanced people. So that's what I enjoy. And I love working with our parents. This community in Murphy really has the best parents around. I love working with you guys and your partnership. I love trying to help if there's any issues that arise, and I really enjoy trying to make it a good experience. So I'm going to run through just a few things today, but then I'll let you guys just you can put questions in the chat here in a minute, and we can just talk about what you want to talk about. So you get that opportunity because, like Tammy said, this is kind of informal. We all hopefully have our coffee. We're just sitting down across the computer from one another, having an opportunity to talk about this awesome school. So a couple things. It's a new year, and it's a new year like we've never had. Obviously, last year was what it was. It is disheartening that COVID is still looming and having an effect on education, but there's not a lot we can do about it. This is the 3rd year now that's being affected in some way, shape, or form. Just the fact that we're meeting virtually right now. But our goal is to continue to have a positive outlook and to work as hard as we can to meet our students' needs. We have all of our students back in the building except for a select few 6th graders that chose the district virtual option. But we've got about 1,080 kids or so in the building right now. And so that's kind of the way things look. Let me talk a little bit about COVID. And I know you may have some follow-up questions, so I'll run through some things. And then at the end, certainly if you have more questions, I'm happy to help, because there's a lot of talk. There's a lot of opinions in our community about COVID. There's a wide variety. So I'll just kind of tell you what, the school follows the PISD COVID protocols, okay? And those protocols are grounded in state law and district policy. And so, the district recommends masking for students, but it's not mandated. Now, you've heard maybe some districts that are mandating it. I'm not at the pay grade to really have that discussion with you, other than it's not mandated in our district, and there's a lot at play with masking in schools. Okay, so the bottom line is, I will just tell you what I do is I wear a mask the majority of the time that I'm indoors around kids. Not obviously when I'm in my office and no one's around, or if you see me outside, I probably won't have it on because it really outdoors, we're not in close contact with people. I understand some people are fine not wearing a mask, but I just do it out of respect for those that are concerned about COVID. Plus, I don't know enough to know enough. So I wear the mask for that reason, okay? Teachers are not required to wear a mask. I cannot require them to wear a mask. So your child may come home saying their teacher wears a mask. They may come home saying their teacher does not wear a mask. That is not something that is up to the choice of the teacher. Social distancing, if you had a child here last year, you remember they were in classes of around 15 to 18, maybe even less. They might have been in a class of 9. Students are in classes of normal size all the way up to 30. Without virtual instruction, we have full classes. So, I don't want anyone to think there is any sort of social distancing in the classroom. We keep kids as far apart as possible. But I want people to understand that kids are, in the traditional setup in the classroom. Same at lunch. There are a few kids that have liked to, wanted to eat in the hallway at lunch, and we've allowed that. That's fine. Most don't. If that's something you'd like for your child to do, it's a double-edged sword, because then they don't quite get the social experience. Speaking of lunch, you may have heard your child say, I'm sitting with my 3rd or 4th period class. And that's true. And our goal is, once we kind of get things moving in a direction where kids understand procedures and we feel like we've got a solid start to the year, we may begin to look at some seating changes in 7th and 8th grade. 6th grade's probably going to stay with their 3rd period tables for just a little while. They have a long way to go in learning the protocols here. 7th and 8th have always had the opportunity to choose their own tables and sit with friends, and then they would sign up for that. I'm going to tell you why that's not the case currently. And I understand if there's different feelings about it. The main reason is, one, we're required to do that for COVID. We have to know where everyone's sitting, because at any time the Collin County Health Department can ask for a seating chart. Okay, so if there's contact tracing, so we have to know where everyone is. Now, we could go ahead and do a free-for-all the first week of school and try to figure out where everyone's going to sit. That is a lot of moving parts early on in a school year like this. And so really the best way to go about is to give the children where they're going to sit till we get things established. And then we can move from there and allow 7th and 8th graders to choose a seat to sign up for in the future, once we've kind of got our bearings about us. But to do that week 1, week 2 is really a lot to ask, especially with all that's going on in the school building this time of year in terms of management, ensuring that we are following all protocols. We need to have an easy way to know where kids are going to be. A lot of the kids can make friends with the people at their table anyway, but I understand it's always been a kind of a perk of the upperclassmen of Murphy to sit with their friends. So I'm sensitive to that. I understand it. I'm aware of it. We'll move to it as soon as we can. I hope everyone understands why we're not at that point right now. If you've gotten a letter from me, you got one last night about a staff member that tested positive. I send those out at the end of the day. So let me tell you why you would get a letter. And it's going to change a little bit. So what you got last night is what you'll always get if there's a staff member, unless something changes. You're going to get it. It is a somewhat of a generic letter that's just going to say that a staff member tested positive. That's what we're going to provide. This is, the school is following the district protocols. With the letter will tell you if the staff member tested positive. Okay. If the Collin County Health Department and their contact tracing decides that your child is a close contact of that staff member, then you will be informed. Okay. The Collin County Health Department everything is submitted and it goes to them, and they can look at seating charts and make that determination. The campus is not able to do their own contact tracing, or we are stepping in front of the Collin County Health Department and doing a job that is theirs, which we're not authorized to do that. And we were last year. Now that may change, but we're not authorized to do that. We're not authorized to tell someone, hey, you're a close contact. I don't have that authority to tell someone they're a close contact. So it's their authority to do that. So I understand, that people may wonder, well, what's going on with the Collin County Health Department? There is, I believe, I don't want to speak in certainty, but my understanding from her, there's 13 people that are kind of like intake people that handle these situations. Now, if there's a student who tests positive for COVID, you've been getting a letter that states a student tested positive for COVID-19. Now, there's something that's about to change with that. The next time you get a letter from me, it'll let you know the grade level. Okay, so that is something PISD has recently changed. So I will put the student's grade level in the letter. My plan is, if we have 2 in one day, is to have the letter say students have tested positive in 6th and 8th grade. Okay, that way it's all in one letter, so you can read those letters. I understand one of the letters didn't open the other day. I apologize for that. I don't know what happened. I do try to put it in the body of the email as well, so you'll know kind of what's going on, so you don't necessarily have to open it. But the letter is the official documentation. It is a form letter that is, it's a PISD form letter. So if you have kids in other schools, you'll get that same letter. Activities, we are not having assemblies the first 9 weeks. We're not having social gatherings that are not necessary. So for instance, a football game, the campus doesn't have concerts the first 9 weeks anyway, so it doesn't, or a play, so it's not going to come into effect. But my understanding is at this point, we'd be allowed to have those. But for instance, if we wanted to have like a tailgate party or something like we used to after school, those are the kind of things right now that we're being asked to wait until the second 9 weeks to plan. And those are things that normally happen during the second 9 weeks anyway. Student clubs that meet after school, we're still going to allow that till we're told otherwise. That's a choice for a child to attend. And so students can start clubs. We have curricular clubs. We have non-curricular. An example of a curricular club would be like the environmental club, because it is tied to school curriculum. And so it has a teacher sponsor, Ms. Pilgrim. And so that'll be up and going. Non-curricular clubs could be anything started by a student. A student could start a Minecraft club if they wanted to, and kids would come and play Minecraft after school and hang out and talk about that. We'd have to have a staff sponsor, but that's an example of a non-curricular club. Okay, open house. We had the 6th grade open house. We hope you were able to make it. Had a great time that evening. 7th and 8th grade open house is going to be virtual. The reason for that is because now that we've entered the first 9 weeks, it's a large social gathering that we're not going to be able to have. It's going to be August 30th, and teachers are creating a website and videos that will be posted that evening for you to view. It's very difficult to have a feasible interactive open house for teachers. And in their defense, for them to jump into a Zoom and have parents just coming in and out, not muted, it's very stressful. So this is an asynchronous event. However, if we get permission to have some sort of synchronous open house at some point in time in person, we will go for it. Okay, so just stay tuned on that. But this will be kind of a asynchronous virtual meet the teacher, to where you guys can get to know them, and certainly there'll be opportunities to contact them, and they'll provide that. Okay. All right. You guys have heard about Maverick period by now, and you're like, what in the world is that? Because I haven't told you much about it. And maybe your kid told you about it. Maybe they didn't. Okay. So Maverick period is necessary. It may not seem like it's necessary right now, but it's necessary. Okay. I hope I can present this by making sense. So I'm going to try to give you guys an understanding of what I know. We are in an ever-changing educational landscape right now. Okay, so at the end of last school year, the Texas legislature met in June. They passed a House bill called House Bill 4545. Okay, so we didn't know anything about House Bill 4545 until it was passed, and we started getting information. I started getting information on it in July. Okay. Essentially, the school has been charged with providing time in the school day to complete the requirements of House Bill 4545. We have not started this yet. So right now in Maverick period, you guys have watched this, your kids have watched the standard response protocol videos. We've done drills. We've had fun, get to know you games. Kids have had time to do study hall, time to take a break, a breather. It's a short period of time. But at some point in time, we do have a large number of students that are going to have to receive tutoring during that time. Okay. So I'm going to give you a little bit of information. I don't want to overwhelm anyone because maybe a lot of people on this call, it won't affect your child. And I'm going to talk about what will happen to your child if your child's not covered under House Bill 4545. I also want to just be very transparent that we're just now learning about it, and there keeps being some changes. And so I just hope there's some grace involved as we kind of move forward in planning this, because it is all very new. Any child that did not pass the STAR test is required under House Bill 4545 to complete 30 hours of tutoring. So I'll give an example. If a 5th grade child did not pass Science STAR, they have 30 hours of STAR tutoring. And our goal is to do as much of it as possible during the school day so that children are not kept before and after school or in the summer or weekend or whatever. I don't freak out when I say those things, because our goal is to get this done during school, and I think we can. Okay. So we do have a 6th graders who might have failed math, science, and English. That equals 90 hours. So when we're at that point, we are getting kind of dicey on how much time we have during the school day to get this done, because you don't want to have so much Maverick period of time that you're cutting into general instruction. So it's a balancing act. Okay. All right. There's others that are temporarily covered under House Bill 4545. So I'm gonna do my best to explain this. Okay. Get ready for this, because you didn't know this in the spring, and then it was sprung. Okay. If your child did not take the STAR test, they are currently under House Bill 4545 for tutoring. However, we are about to take the MAP test. If a child did not take the STAR test, they were absent, they opted out, they no-showed, they were virtual, and they never came. If they perform at a level on the MAP test that shows that they would meet the STAR standard, then they get opted out of House Bill 4545 and don't have to do it. Okay. These are not my rules. Again, this comes from the state legislature, because I know there's definitely people sitting on this meeting right now whose child did not take STAR, and you're wondering what's going to happen. Okay. So when is MAP? MAP begins on August 30th. It's the week of August. It's the week before Labor Day. Okay. And what is MAP? MAP is the measure of academic progress test. We take it 3 times a year to see how our students are progressing. The fall MAP is a baseline for the school year. So what we like about fall MAP is we see where kids are, we see if they've maybe lost any learning over the summer, and then we take it again in the winter to see how much they've grown, right? And the kids that aren't growing at a particular level, we begin to provide additional intervention. Okay, so that's what MAP is. And MAP's for every kid. It doesn't matter if your child is a child who struggles academically or if your child's going to end up in an Ivy League school. every child can benefit from MAP, because MAP is about growing. It's an individual competition against yourself in a way to continue to grow. Okay. However, there are MAP scores that predict how a child will perform on STAR. And if it predicts that a child will not meet standard on STAR, and they did not take STAR last year, then they do have to do the House Bill 4545 tutoring. This is not going to likely be very many students. Okay. We've looked at our projections of what we think will happen, but I want to put that out there. Okay. The next thing, and I know I'm getting long-winded, some of you may not care about this because your kid passed all the STAR tests. If your child is a 6th grader and they did not pass STAR, they have to have an ALC meeting, Accelerated Learning Committee meeting. Okay, so it's a meeting where we're going to talk about the plan for your child to get 30 hours and kind of what they're going to do and when they're going to do it. If they did not take STAR, we will not have an ALC meeting until we get your child's MAP results. If they perform on MAP to where they would have passed STAR, there is no ALC meeting. They're opted out. If there's concerns with the MAP score and we don't think that, well, there's going to be a cut score, and I'm waiting to find out what that's going to be, right? The MAP scores are generated by a company. I don't want to get too bored into the details, but a company called NWEA that tells you what that projection is. Okay. So once we receive that, okay. Bottom line is, if you have a 6th grader who didn't take STAR, I'm not going to call you for an ALC meeting till we have their MAP results. If you have a 6th grader that did not pass STAR, we're going to go ahead and start those ALC meetings soon, because your child is going to need some of the tutoring. It's a lot. Okay, we'll walk you through it if your child applies, if child situation applies. Okay, I know it's a lot. So going back to, what is Maverick period? Okay, why do we have that? We're going to use Maverick period to accrue tutoring time for students during the school day. Okay, so for instance, if a child needs 30 hours of math, then we're going to try to get them that 30 hours of math during the school day, during Maverick period. Okay. Now, if your child ends up being absent a lot, we might have to make up some of that before or after school, which you would, any absent child may have to make something up before or after school. Okay. So there's every kid's situation is different with Maverick period. Now, the next question becomes, what happens if my child doesn't need this? Great question. Okay. We want those kids to work on math and reading too. And so we are looking into some computer programs, and we're still looking at, again, this is very new. I'm being transparent that for me to have the answers to this quickly would be really tough to have to do it right and have all the answers. There's some computer programs where kids can work on, let's just use the example of math tutoring or math practice, and it works at your level. Right? So if your level is struggling to meet grade level, you're going to work on that. There's going to be a tutor standing near you to help you to meet grade level. And if you're an 8th grader that's in geometry, and you might be working more at the SAT prep level. Okay. So our goal is to find something like that, but we're working on it. I hope you guys understand this is all very new. So that way everyone could be doing something to help them grow academically during that time. We are going to keep 1 day a week for SEL, which is just, honestly, it's a time for kids to chill. They kind of need that. Okay. Have a fun activity, get to know each other, get to know the teacher. They could do study hall during that time. I think kids need that. For a kid, imagine this. Okay. If you're a child, during the day, you're going to math, science, social studies, English. And then you got to turn around and do Maverick period tutoring every day for math, science, and reading because you failed all 3 tests. I mean, that is exhausting for a child, right? So we're going to build in some time for fun as well. Okay, so it's a lot. I understand it, and I'm doing the best I can to explain it, but I want you guys to know we're going to go day by day, week by week, month by month as we kind of embark on this new endeavor of the House Bill 4545 law. So, and I can take more questions on it later. I know it's a lot. It's all very new. And we're charged with making it happen. And so that's what we're going to do. And at the end of the day, here's the main thing. We're not going to do House Bill 4545 just to fulfill some law. Okay, we'll do that, but we got to make it count. If we're going to spend time tutoring kids during the day, we got to make it a valuable experience for them, help them learn and grow. House Bill 4545 was put in because of concerns of learning loss for students, because last year was what it was. And the STAR scores were not that great, right? Understandably, they were not that great across the whole state. So this is the answer to that. And so we're going to do the best we can to make it a valuable experience. Right now, there's not a whole lot going on in Maverick, period. On Monday, they did an SRP video. Tuesday, we did drills. And yesterday, I think they just did like a little get to know you game with their teacher. Okay. There may be some days where they do silent reading and catch up on reading. So there is going to be some of that as well. Okay. All right. I don't want to talk too much because I know you got your questions. Talked about open house, talked about House Bill 45, talked about COVID. Oh, totally another subject, but very, very important. Just want to talk about bullying and mistreatment of others because that's super important. It's the last thing we ever want is for kids to have a bad experience with other kids or to be mistreated or harassed or bullied. So this is what happened. So first of all, we as a staff and as our school community want to model respect, tolerance, and care for one another in the way our staff treats students and in the way that we encourage students to treat one another. It's very important that we are a Maverick family. That is something that we preach. We preach putting others before ourselves and caring for one another. However, this is a middle school with 1,080 kids. So there will be some kids that choose to make poor decisions and maybe say something unkind or do something unkind to another child. Okay, it could be your child on the receiving end of that. So how do we handle that when it happens? Well, we take it seriously, but first of all, we've got to know about it. So how do you know about it? Well, there's really 3 ways to know about it. Okay, 1, you supervise the best that you can. But keep in mind, you've got 90 staff members and 1,080 kids. We're outnumbered, right? As any school would be. Kids are typically not going to choose to do something unkind to another child right in front of me. They're probably not going to do that. Even if I'm walking the hall all day long. If I'm walking the hall all day long, it's going to be harder for them to do it. Okay, I can't walk the hall. Obviously, I'm not walking the hall right now, but if our teachers are out and about, like we try to be, it does limit it some, okay, but we can't be everywhere at once. Number 2, kids have to know that it's not tolerated. We have to preach that. We've already talked to kids about bullying on the first day of school. We did it. We addressed it on the first day of school with them, that it is not tolerated, it is not acceptable, okay? Number 3, kids have to know where to go and who to talk to if they're being mistreated. Okay, so who do they go to? Well, 1, they got to know who I am, right? That's important. So I've got to be out and about meeting kids. They have to know who our assistant principals, their counselors, and their teachers are. And they have to know that they can tell their teacher when something's going on. Our teachers have to be open and inviting and receptive to that. If a staff member blows off a bullying concern, then a child is not going to want to report that, right? So we've got to be very vigilant in hearing kids out, even when we might not think it rises to the level of bullying. We still have to take every kid seriously. So that is something that is preached on campus, communicated to our students. It's very important for them to know who we are. Our administrators are in the lunchroom every day trying to get to know kids. If you are concerned about a bullying situation, you need to email our administration. You can email me. You can email an assistant principal. You can email the teacher. You can email your child's counselor. You can call us. When you tell us that there's a bullying concern, we start a bullying investigation using PISD board policy, okay? And it is a thorough investigation. There's an intake form that's used that we'll have you guys fill out. Depending on what happens, letters can be issued to those involved saying what was found in the investigation, depending on how far the investigation goes. Okay, so let's say the investigation goes to where we really had to find out if there was bullying or not. At the end, there will be a letter that'll say, and this is based on district policy, there will be a letter that will give the outcome. It won't say the outcome is that so-and-so is a bully. It doesn't say that. It says so-and-so called somebody child A called so-and-so this. Yes, it happened. No, it didn't happen. Okay. Based on our investigation. That's the way it's worded. Okay. No one gets the label of being a bully. Okay. Because I can understand the concern with that. It's more about either this did or did not happen in a situation. Certainly, if something is found to have happened, there is consequences based on the district code of conduct. All right, I've talked a lot about kind of my big things. I want you guys to know this, though. The mission of this school is to love and support our kids in all ways. We know that it's not always going to run smoothly or perfectly, just like the rain this morning, or you're going to have COVID stuff that gets in the way and we have to switch gears, or we've got new laws and regulations we have to make sure that we adhere to, and we've got to change some things up. But with all that being said, I would encourage you guys to type in some questions, and I'll take the next 20 minutes or so to answer them.
Mr.
right.
Conrad?
Yes, sir.
So I had a couple of questions. One was just a clarification. So when you were talking about the COVID protocols and you said that the Collin County Health Department was handling the contact tracing, and that if they chose that there needed to be notifications, they would handle it. That means that those notifications would come from them, right? They don't pass that along to the school and then you'd use that information. They do it directly?
That is my understanding.
Okay.
I have not been in a situation where they've asked me to contact somebody.
Okay.
Change.
Okay, thank you. And then the second question I had was actually about the House Bill 4545 requirements, all that. And you said that so if for the map testing, if they score a certain level, they'll be exempted from the tutorials. And this may be thinking too far ahead and you may not have this information, but so that's based on the first test that they take, the first round of map tests. So conceivably, is it going to be a situation where if the mid-year map test, their scores go up and they reach that threshold, would they then be dismissed from the tutorials?
That's an awesome question. I don't know the answer. I'm hoping to find out.
Okay.
And let me just reiterate a couple of things. If a child did not pass STAR, it doesn't even matter how they perform on MAP. They're doing House Bill 45, no matter what. If they didn't take the MAP test, and let's say they don't, I'm sorry,
the STAR test.
Too many tests.
Yeah.
If they didn't take the STAR test, and then they take the MAP test, and let's say they are projected to not meet standard on STAR, they would begin the House Bill 45 protocols. I definitely have the question of what if they do wonderful on MAP in the wintertime? Are they then excused from the remaining hours? I will tell you this. I know that our superintendents meet with the, I know there's updates from the TEA commissioner that come out every so often, and a lot of it is related to House Bill 45. So I could see an update like that potentially, but I couldn't speak on it for sure.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I figured. Thank you.
Yeah. There's a question on there about picture day. Okay. Is picture day in person, and October 22nd is for virtual? Okay. We've got a very small amount of virtual students right now. It's a very small amount. So if you have a question about pictures, Ms. Yao, what I would recommend is to just go ahead and email me and Ms. Ware so we can work out a plan for you. Okay. We don't have a widespread plan for virtual just because it's a very small group. We would work with everybody individually. So lockers. Let's talk about lockers. lockers, I understand there's several opinions on lockers. When we didn't have lockers last year, there was some really increased efficiency in the building of getting kids to class. And an increase in engagement, really. I mean, because the kids had one less thing to worry about, okay? This was something that other schools had piloted and it had been successful. Now, with that being said, I knew I would get this question today. And we will issue a locker if there's a circumstance where you feel like your child needs it. Contact us and we can get your child a locker. It's no problem. So I will let you know that just send me an email or Mr. McDonald an email and kind of let us know what you may need. We want to meet every kid's needs. We think the vast majority of the kids are better off without lockers. Right now, it's one less thing for sixth graders to learn. It's one less piece of stress on their plate. But if we have kids that feel they need one, maybe they're really small and feel like they have a lot of things, or there's a medical condition, or for any other reason, I'm not saying no to a locker. You guys can check one out. Absolutely. Just let me know. And we can definitely do that for you. We may limit what times a day your child can go. Just say, hey, morning, right after lunch, and after school. That way they can kind of switch out like multiple things. But having all the kids in the hallway with all their lockers, not to mention with COVID, it also helps with that some, because there's a lot of interaction at that time. I'm not saying it's mandated not to have lockers. It does help. Certainly if there was, I don't see a shutdown coming, but if there is, things can get stuck in a child's locker. But anyway, with all that being said, if you feel like you really need one, we'll let you have one. It's no problem at all. You just reach out to us individually and we'll work with you, okay? All right, got some other questions. Is there a threshold of COVID-19 cases where school at home becomes an option again? So that's another question. I mean, I can try to talk about law and stuff. I don't want anyone to see me as an authority. I'm not a lawyer or a superintendent. So I'll tell you what I know in layman's terms is the state legislature was going to vote on whether virtual learning would be funded. And the vote never happened. And this was in late May, early June. If the vote had happened, then the district would have been allowed to have a virtual school. And when kids attended, we could have been funded for it, which is how teachers are paid and how schools are run. The bill never passed. And so that's why there's no virtual school. Now, please also consider that I'm a principal and I'm working at that level. And I'm speaking to you in the terms the best that I have. And certainly if you wanted to reach out to somebody higher up or a representative, that is what I would encourage. Okay. Now there are protocols that the Collin County Health Department actually has for shutting down schools that go beyond COVID. Even before COVID, there was, if you had a certain number of flu cases, you could potentially shut a school down. We never got to that point. But there is Mr. Cornell, who is our you're not social media this year. Tell me, so he's.
So I'm just, technically I'm just technology, but just for everyone to know, so I've been involved with PTA for quite a while, and I actually am on the Plano ISD Council of PTA's board as well, and have been for a few years. So I get to sit in on a lot of extra meetings that are sort of higher up in the district with Mrs. Bonser and things like that. So that's kind of who I am. That's why I tend to post sort of informational links and things like that. So.
Yeah, Mr. Cornell is a technology whiz. He's also very involved in PTA and PISD. And so he did post up there the plan. I do believe it has the different levels of what can happen with schools depending on cases. All right, I'm going to get to the new House Bill 45. How will extra hours of tutoring work with current specials like speech? It will not affect that at this time. It should not affect it. I would say the only thing that could happen, I'm just throwing this out there, and I'm not saying this will happen, let's say your child ends up being absent a lot and we've got to make up that time. And we said, hey, they're gonna have to come after school a lot, or would you want them to make up some of the time during specials? I suppose you could have a choice, but that would be a rare circumstance. That is not the general plan, is for people to be pulled from PE, speech, theater, art. And that's not what House Bill 45 is about. They want kids to be, it's supposed to happen outside of class time. Okay, regarding COVID positive cases, other middle schools and PIC are notified of the grade level and the last time that person was on campus. I heard you say you will now include grade levels for student cases. Could you do the same for faculty staff cases, as many teachers are not wearing masks and are likely to expose our kids? So far, it does not seem like Collin County conduction. Okay, so the last I talked to the Plano ISD Health Department, I was told that I am not to give the grade level of the teacher, because I suppose there could be, I'm not going to guess why, other than, I mean, it could be a HIPAA thing, I suppose. Let's say it's the only teacher that was absent that day in that grade level. I guess that's, again, I would encourage you to reach out to someone with more expertise, but at this time, I've been instructed not to do that, and I'm following the plan to the letter. So if that changes, we certainly will allow that. I understand your question and concern, and if I'm instructed that I begin allowing people to know the grade level, I can absolutely do that. But at this time, I've been instructed not to. I also see that you had written that they talked about the last time that person was on campus. I did notice another middle school had mentioned that. That is not written in the plan that I'm supposed to be following right now, but I'll double check. Certainly, if that's something that's allowed that we can do, I can absolutely make an adjustment there. But right now, when a situation happens, I am reading the PISD plan and I'm following it step by step to ensure that I'm following it as I should. So if something changes there, I'm absolutely happy to do that. All right. A lot of tough topics this year. I hope everyone can keep a smile. It's a great school. I hope your kids are having a great experience so far. It has been an absolute joy to see your kids on campus. They're having a great time. They seem to be. They seem to really be enjoying it. And I'm enjoying my time with them as well. This is a wonderful place. I can tell you from the bottom of my heart that the school loves your kid. And when I hire teachers, that's what I look for first and foremost, are people who are gonna treat the kids here like their own children. That doesn't mean there's not gonna be hiccups here and there, but that's really our goal, is to treat everyone with dignity, with respect, with love and care, to work with them, to meet every need. So, all right, no more questions?
Mr. Conrad, so
Yes,
this is
ma'am.
Bonnie Lindemeyer.
Hi.
Thanks for doing this. Boy,
Yeah.
I think you're pretty brave for doing this, but I think it's fantastic. And I love all the information that you shared
Yeah.
with everyone. I think it was very helpful, obviously. Sure. And I would agree with your sentiments about your teachers. I think by and large, Murphy has fantastic teachers, and it's a great school. My concern that I had last year, and I'm hoping that it won't be this year, is the level of homework that was given last year. Of course, you're very familiar with my sentiments on that. I tried going to the school board, and after waiting 2.5 hours to speak with the school board and being told it would probably be another 2 hours, it was pretty obviously we're not interested in hearing from taxpayers and parents if they're willing to make people wait 4.5 hours to speak to them. So that was very frustrating, but that's at a district level, not at Murphy's level. But I'm certainly hoping that that's taken into more consideration this year, so that students are not having 5 and 6 hours worth of homework, because that was the case last year. It was common for my student to be up to get it all done until at least midnight, if not 1 and 2 in the morning. And
So,
that's our 7th grader is just can't
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Lindemeyer. And I do think one thing that'll help with that this year, and some of that depended, I think, on certain courses kids are taking, but absolutely, we don't want anyone doing 5 hours of homework every night. I had just mentioned that our mission of this school goes way beyond academics. It's middle school. This is the beauty of middle school, is it's the middle, right? You get to work with kids with their needs and where they're at, and they're all kind of in the middle right now in life, in their childhood. One thing that was really tough last year was this whole kind of due by midnight thing that was going on because of the co-seating. So
Absolutely.
you had, what you had was kids would maybe let things, maybe they get behind in class, they may get half, to no fault of their own. And the teachers might have had a hard time judging how much they were assigning because they'd never taught like this before. So they have a Google Classroom and say, okay, if you didn't get it done by the end of class, just make sure to get it in by tonight. And you have kids that, if each class, they've got 30 minutes of stuff to do, and you've got, let's say for 5 classes, the next thing you're up till 10 or 11. So my hope is that because we're not at that point, that things should be better. And that doesn't mean your child will never have a long night of homework. I mean, I do think the occasional long night of homework is traditional and probably something that every kid should experience at some point in time, like we all did, but it shouldn't be every night. Kids need a childhood. They need to be able to experience more than just, books and paperwork. So I appreciate that, Ms. Linnemeyer, and certainly will monitor that. I do think one thing that exacerbated that issue last year was the co-seating that we had to do. So thank you for your comments. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Parent-teacher meetings at MMS. Okay, so here's the protocol. There's nothing saying they can't be in person. We're supposed to try to have them be virtual, okay? However, if we feel there's a need to have one in person, we are allowed to, okay? So if you want to conference with the teacher in person, you could contact them and request to do that and at a time that's appropriate for them. We have been asked to try to keep things as virtual as possible. Just like today's meeting is when it can be virtual, we try to do it virtually. But that does, like, take an ARD meeting. If you have a child who's served through special education, the default is to start those out virtually. But if you really feel like you really want to be up here, you feel like in order to really have the best experience and understanding of your child's individual education plan, that you need to have that in person, we can certainly schedule it in person as well. With these ALC meetings that are coming up, we're probably going to do those virtually as well, but by parent request, we can do those in person. We're going to need to have a considerable amount, and having them virtually does help a little bit with that, because you can end one meeting and begin another one within a short period of time. But we want to make sure everyone gets their due time, and sometimes that needs to be in person, especially if you're in a situation where we have to translate to another language. A lot of times that's easier in person as well. All right, any other questions? We can go for 5 more minutes.
So I didn't have another question,
Yeah.
but I've been poking around trying to find, I know they had posted somewhere, someone had the question earlier about sort of the threshold of COVID before
Yeah,
virtual learning has gone through, or before schools are closed or virtual learning is implemented. There was a draft of, I'm going to post the link here in a second, but I want to explain what it is before I do. This is a Plano ISD. It was one of the back to school draft documents. I don't know if it's been finalized, but it does kind of give more information about the different levels that were going to be handled for campuses. This is the campus health and safety protocol draft. So I'm going to post that link, and on page 4 of that, there's a nice little chart that outlines sort of the different levels: prevention, mitigation, modified operations, facility closure, and district closure. So if anybody wants to review that, it's a super interesting read, but it's there for you. A lot of this information is available on Plano ISD's website. Sometimes it's just hard to find. I did also look at the Collin County Health Department website to see if they had that same information. I haven't been able to find that yet. I'm sure it's there somewhere, buried deep within the depths of their website, but that's there if anyone needs it.
thank you so much. You guys are such a wonderful group of parents. Your kids are wonderful. We've got wonderful kids here. So thank you for entrusting them to us. We really enjoy them. We want this to be a great experience. With all that being said, I think we'll go ahead and close it out. We're at 9:55. That doesn't mean that you can't ever contact me or ask anything that you need. We're here for you. We're excited, and we care. So, and again, just in support of PTA, I would encourage you to join. It's the best PTA all around, and anyone's welcome to join. So. All right. You guys have a wonderful day. Bye.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Bye.